Welcome back to All for United in what's going to be our final transfer special with Graeme Bailey, who's given us his wisdom and knowledge throughout this. How do we summarise this summer transfer window? You know what? We'll get to that at the end of the show. We'll talk about that, especially when it comes to United's window. But first of all, Graeme, we've not caught up in a few weeks, so we haven't actually spoken since Casemiro and Anthony have both come in, and also looking like Dubravka now as well. A goalkeeper you know well, obviously you're up there near Newcastle and around Tyneside, so we'll get on to him in a second. But let's start with Casemiro and your thoughts on that signing. Let's recap.
Yeah, obviously he improves the team no end. Wasn't cheap, but I think fans get a bit too embroiled in the finances sometimes and become online accountants and stuff. It's a good deal in terms of getting a good player. You had to pay slightly over the odds, but that's a position you are as a club, that you do have to play slightly over the odds. Obviously, we'll talk about Anthony as well, and that's the case there as well. But no, I think it's a good deal. It's what you needed. It's a major step up on what the club have at the moment. So yeah, it was a good deal. Obviously hoping the player can pay it back over the next 3 or 4 years, which I think he will.
Yeah, I remember you saying when we were talking to Young that you would be more convinced that Ten Hag will succeed at United if we signed De Jong. Do you get the same sort of feeling from Casemiro? Do you feel with Casemiro in his armoury that is you're much more, let's say, comfortable with Ten Hag at United and him being able to push this side forward?
I think it's slightly different because De Jong was what Ten Hag wanted. What he still wants, if he does become available his last few days, United would still try and do it. There's no doubt about that. But it helps Ten Hag. I'm not sure I would have the same authority because clearly Casemiro wasn't part of the master plan from the start of the summer.
Yeah, it's an interesting one that as well with how quickly it moved. Just a bit of background from your side. Was it really one of those where Rabiot was obviously falling to bits a little bit because of the negotiations over his wages and, so to speak, agents then getting involved, and United were, so to speak, given that opportunity? How did that play out on your end? Because like you said, it doesn't seem that he was part of the big list or plan.
No, it just became through the agents and intermediaries that he was available. United explored that. Chelsea looked as well, but I think they were willing to do the size of deal that United were. Plus, they haven't been able to move on people like Jorginho. So I think although they liked him, they had other things they needed to do first, like a Fofana. So United have moved in, and there's a window there for them to get him. They found out he wanted to go. Not a huge surprise considering what Real have done in terms of Toumani and Camavinga, who wonderful forward planning from Real, that they can get rid of someone like Casemiro and he won't really be missed at the Bernabeu if those players perform as Real hope they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big signing. And another big signing announced Anthony joining United. We spoke about De Jong being the biggest financially of the window. I mean, Anthony, when it comes to flat fee, is massive. I think Fofana's just about to cost more than that potentially for Chelsea. But either way, from the very start, transfer fees aside, you were adamant Anthony was going to join United at some point in this window. And it took a bit of pushing from his side, but it's happened. Can you unravel the last week or so for us in terms of this deal coming together?
Yeah, I from when United were first in for him, 5-6 weeks ago, they were looking to keep him, but it was a club record fee they were demanding, Ben, wasn't it? So that is where they saw it. And United came back in. I think the start of the season probably helped Ten Hag in terms of getting him in. I think the hierarchy and the Glazers were willing to do it, and they pushed it through. Anthony, I love his sign. I think he's, as you know, I'm a huge fan of his. I think the people who are questioning the fee for Anthony have probably never seen him too much in action. I think it's a potential Ballon d'Or winner. I rate him Matt Hardy, Ben. I think his ceiling on this player is huge, more so than most that have moved in this window. Even the likes of Rafinha and Richarlison. So I think Anthony he's probably not there yet, but I think his ceiling, where he could go, is massive. He could be one of the world's best.
Yeah, I remember you saying that to me, and everyone we've spoken to about Anthony have turned around and sort of questioned and sort of thrown out there the stat grabbers, let's call them, because that's what rival fans are looking at. But there's a lot more to his game, isn't there? And he's going to bring a flair and excitement as well to United games. And I think we go back to all big teams need one player in their side that can change within a touch of the ball the whole dynamic of a game. And Anthony's got that special ingredient, hasn't he, Graeme? He's got that about him.
Yeah, he has. He's a Mane Salah type player, where he can change a game on a flip of a coin. He's that good. And you got Sancho in there as well. It's just it's forming a very impressive looking front three. Obviously, Rashford's likely to get his chance more down the middle, which we presumed was the case anyway from when they first went for Anthony. Sancho, and I think Sancho ran Rashford and Anthony. I'd love to see that get a run. I think the potential in that front three is something United haven't seen for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they may not fire in the top 4 this season, but I think the sky's the limit in terms of that. And I think you've probably got the right coaches in there at the moment to try and do that. We know Steve McLaren's a huge fan of Rashford. And obviously Anthony and Ten Hag have a very good relationship as well. So I think they're giving themselves a chance, which is what you need to do with this window. I'm still not a huge fan of Martinez. I think he was vastly overpaid for him. But Malacia, what a performance he put in recently. I think there's a lot of green shoots there. I think obviously it's a matter of building, isn't it, Ben? And Ten Hag, he's done well last couple of games, and it's just a building process now. As long as fans aren't expecting a Champions League challenge this season, because I don't think that'll be coming. But as long as they're not on the board, don't pressure him too much. As long as they see some sort of progressions, and I think that's key. And you should do, with these players now, Anthony, Casemiro, Eriksen, Malacia. I won't put Martinez in there because I don't think it improves you at all. But the rest of them, it should be better than last season. That's the hope. In terms of, not necessarily in terms of position, but in terms of the play, the progress, you can see where they're going. And so far, I think you can.
I think with Martinez, it's one of those where obviously a lot of fans are getting excited at the moment, and I'll be lying if I said that I'm not one of them. In terms of the way,
excited about what?
Well, in the way that he's approached his first 4 games at United, and especially the last couple of games with Varane next to him and actually Malacia next to him. But I think that's what makes the difference here. And I just want to quickly say on him, I think he's a player that we've got to properly judge. Do you know what they say? Like, you never really take notice where you are in the league after your first 10 games. I think we've got to do the same with Martinez, because there's so many more tougher tests coming up for Martinez. And there's so many different styles in the Premier League that he is going to have to adapt and try and face. I don't agree with a lot of the punditry that are just singling out his height. I think there's other elements to his game that he also potentially needs to look at.
My criticism, Ben, has nothing to do with his height. It was his lack of football.
Oh, no, I wasn't saying yours was.
But lack against Brighton is a lack of football intelligence to cut that first cross out. So hugely worrying for a £60 million Argentine, and you can't recognise danger.
I was going to say a similar thing happened against Southampton, where a ball was played in behind him and Varane wasn't exactly on the cover, and he didn't get rid of it. And it was a lapse in concentration and from him, but also a lapse in communication between the pair of them. And fair enough, that has been a bit rarer with Varane next to him. But when Maguire was next to him, that was happening every 2 or 3 times the opposition went
I don't think he's a horrific player. I think he's okay. I think he's a £30 million middling Premier League centre half. He's not a £60 million top 4 centre half.
Well, can I just say on him, the one thing that there's I suppose 3 key ingredients here that for me are sort of winning him on and sort of championing him a little bit more. The first one is that he's clearly a player that understands the way that Ten Hag wants to play. The issue is Ten Hag really can't put his real philosophy of system into fruition with a goalkeeper like David De Gea behind him.
But his system's changed, Ben, hasn't it? He went from wanting to play from the first game against Brighton. The system's changed.
Yeah, well, it's had to.
So,
It's
so
had to.
yeah, so much. So saying Martinez understands Ten Hag's system. What is his system?
But this is
It's
what
a-
I'm trying to say. It's had
yeah.
to.
So
And
in fact, he didn't understand it against Brighton, but now he does.
no, my point is he can't play a system that he wanted to play and that he was trying to play through pre-season with Brighton because he's clearly seen the weaknesses in the side. And you said it from the very start, to be fair. If United could go and get a player like Frankie de Jong, he is the person who knits up that defence to the midfield to the attack. And United haven't got that player in the squad. And also Casemiro isn't that player. He's a completely different profile. So you need that in front of Martinez, but you also need a keeper that can play football behind Martinez. And we'll come on to Dubravka in a minute. So ultimately, he's a player that sort of he's in too early in some ways because United aren't ever going to get the best out of Martinez within a Ten Hag system until Ten Hag can actually play the way he wants to.
What is the only thing I would say? What is the best of Martinez? I said.
So for me, Graeme,
middling Premier League centre half at best.
For me, what I was going to say on Martinez is the two things I've liked, and you can say, and you are going to say it. This is Manchester United. You need more on that. But from a fan's point of view, and my frustration over the past 2 or 3 years, especially even under Ollie in some games, because we came back quite late in some games, especially within that away record, it's attitude and application. And Martinez has got bundles of attitude. You just have a look at the way he plays the game. First 5 minutes, he's going to foul someone. Now, that's going to be risky.
I don't think mindless challenges are something you want from a £60 million.
Yeah, but it's not mindless challenges, though, is it? Because he's winning his ground duels, he's winning his aerial duels. I wouldn't say it's mindless. I would say that
you say he's winning. Yeah, you know, obviously Liverpool played it wrong. They didn't go up against him. And hey, I said, Ben, we'll see how it goes. But you know,
I would just say from a fan's point of view,
I know a good centre half when I see one, and I don't see one there.
I'd like to say, growing up watching Rio and Vidic next to each other, maybe I went of the Bruce era or the Blanc era, etc. But you know, coming into that world, you know, having watched defenders over time, the likes of Ramos, the likes of, you need these players with grit. And I do think that Martinez has bundles of grit. And I do think that him next to Varane can prove to be a very nice partnership because Varane has got that player next to him that approaches the game a little bit more like Ramos. And I think partnerships are massive at the moment in this United team. We need to have more partnerships. And I think ultimately the improvement there in that back four is that Varane's more comfortable with Martinez. Martinez is a bit more comfortable with Varane. And I think Malacia, again, tons of energy and determination. And I think that counts for a lot at the moment in this United side because I don't think we've got enough of it. I don't think we've got enough. Do you know what's the Mourinho saying against? Do you remember in the Tottenham documentary where he sat his team down and turned around and went, "You need to stop being so nice on the football pitch. You need to go out there and be bastards." You can guarantee that with them two, Malacia and Martinez, in your side, you're going to get that from them. And I think we need that. If we're not going to be able to outplay teams, we need to outfight them. And those two players are going to help with that. So I think ultimately with United, and yes, you can come back and say, but you're Manchester United. If you're going for top four, you need to applicate, etc., etc. But I think with where we're at the moment,
I think Martinez, if you're being honest, the most United fans, hand on heart, he's a huge worry. He's a huge disappointment.
I'm not concerned. I'm actually not concerned about him.
He's nowhere. He's miles off.
But why? Why would you say that?
Because he's just not good enough.
But why? What is
and a win against Liverpool and Southampton doesn't make him good enough. I saw his lack of footballing brain. And you say about his aggression, he was so timid against Brentford. And you know, I saw him. I was never that impressed with him at Ajax. I'll be honest. When I saw him play for Ajax, I didn't come away from that thinking, "There's the next centre half for Argentina. There's Argentina's centre half problem solved."
But Greg, the whole team was timid against Brentford. The whole team was awful.
We'll talk about it throughout the season. Obviously, Ben, we'll come back to it.
100%.
From what I've seen of him so far, he hasn't his Ajax level of play to now. He's just not good enough to be top four. Not good enough.
Interesting. Well, he's got it all to prove, hasn't he? He's got it all to prove, and he's either going to kick on or he's not. And we'll continue having these conversations throughout the season. But at least United have got some depth in that position. And like I've said, the last couple of games, I've been quite happy with that back line. And you know my thoughts on Dalot. And you know my thoughts on Wan Bissaka, but we'll get to him in a minute in the right back position because there may be some movement there. Graham's going to fill us in with what's going on with Wan Bissaka and a potential incoming as well before deadline day if United can move that on. But first things first, it's obviously deal done by the looks of it, Graham. Do you want to give us the latest on Newcastle's Dubravka. Looks like United have done a loan with an option to buy, and that option to buy is on appearances. You can probably fill us in a bit better.
Does it? You can buy it. You can buy him, or it can come on appearances, whichever. I think the option there to do both. And yeah, he's coming in, providing backup to here. If I was United fans thinking you're getting a new number one, don't get too excited. He's okay. He's a very good number two. Very good number two, but he's not threatening. He's not the same caliber. We already know that. That's not doing him a disservice. A very solid number two. It's one of those going back to the Raymond van der Houw days. It's someone who, he does come in, he won't let you down. He'll play very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what do you make of his goalkeeping style? It's different to De Gea. He comes off his line, doesn't he? He can play football.
Not massive. I'm not sure if football and goalkeeper would be the first thing I think of when I think about. I think he's not dissimilar to De Gea, really. He can use his feet, and De Gea gets under a lot of pressure thing. But again, I'm old fashioned. I like my fullbacks to defend. I like my goalkeepers to save shots. It's if I've got a slow centre half, I don't play a high line. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what people told me all the time. Yeah. And yeah, I say he's decent, but he won't challenge David De Gea to be in goal. Yeah, I still think that De Gea is one of the best keepers in Europe. I still think that. Still believe that. And but he's decent, but he's not. He won't be challenging for the number one spot.
Yeah, I do agree. United did need another keeper. Those asking a question though, Graham, why go in for Dubravka when you've got Tom Heaton there already? Is Ten Hag just looking to maybe change around that goalkeeping department a little bit more?
I don't think Tom Heaton's a Premier League goalkeeper, to be honest, at the moment. And even at his best, he was barely a Premier League goalkeeper for me. So I think now at this stage, you needed number two, and he's a good number three. But no, he wasn't. For me, he wasn't good enough to play a game for Manchester United.
So before we went live, I said to Graham, do you know what? We normally do a stream on deadline day for the last hour because you just never know. I went, but I don't think United are going to do anything after Dubravka. And Graham, you just sort of gave me that arm and went, well, we'll see. What about the right back position? And you made a really good point on Wan Bissaka. Now, I think there's been a lot put out that Palace are the team most interested in him. There was a few rumours the other day that was sort of like debuffed. Is this all coming down to fee, wages? We've spoken about this before. What is the likelihood that Wan Bissaka is a Manchester United player by, when is it, Thursday?
I think it's 50-50. I think if United can get a replacement in, then he'll go. I think they don't want to leave themselves short. Mm-hmm. So in that regard, I think they're looking to bring Serginho Dest in. Still talking to him. So I think that's the way they are going to do it. I think that's the way they want to do it. So yeah, I think if Dest talks on going, Barca trying to get him out. If they get him in, then I think Wan Bissaka will be allowed to go.
What would we be looking at? Because Dest is still a young lad, but Barcelona have clearly seen him a surplus to requirements. In terms of United bringing him in, do you think it'd be a big fee for Dest, or do you think it would be sort of something that they can cover and recoup from a potential Wan Bissaka departure? Because there's not been much about it, just that there's been interest. I even saw something the other day that Barca could be looking at a swap deal, but they just want him off the books, don't they? They don't need to add more players.
In terms of, yeah, it's a tough with both of them. I think ideally they're both being told they can go, but neither club wants to be left short. Yeah. Dest is a player United, I think, would ideally like to do, if at all possible, on loan, and that's the way it is. So yeah, it's a tough one, I think, and Palace do want Wan Bissaka, but just don't want to get caught out. Ben, there's no point in letting Wan Bissaka go and then needing him to be caught out. He's not what they need, but he's not a total disaster. So yeah, let's keep an eye on Serginho Dest in Barcelona. Barcelona doing all sorts of things, as we know. Aubameyang, Depay, Braithwaite, Alonso. So they're doing so much by Thursday. Who knows where we are? But yeah, I wouldn't rule Serginho Dest out for United. He needs to play. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's keep an eye on that. I'm with the forwards as well, but I wouldn't necessarily rule out another forward, but that totally depends on the Cristiano Ronaldo situation.
Yeah, which is our next conversation. The one thing I will say about Dest is I spoke to someone who I've been speaking to a lot on Twitter about De Jong, and I saw the Dest rumours the other day. I sent a message going, Dest, question mark, still a bit young to sell, isn't he? I don't watch many Barca games. And he basically just sent me a message back saying, I've seen your tweets about Dallo. If you don't rate Dallo, you want to stay away from Dest. That's what he said to me.
Yeah, he's just not having. He's just not Xavi's cup of tea. So
yeah,
so they progress with that. Yeah,
not fit in. Another name that keeps getting mentioned is Thomas Meunier. So clearly United have a little short list, and clearly United are potentially looking, but it depends, doesn't it? It depends on if there is any potential to get a player like Wan Bissaka out and gone for any type of fee. But I don't know, Graeme. We've always said a loan there is probably the most likeliest thing to happen, isn't it, at this point?
Yeah, definitely. Arthur Palace, yeah, definitely would be a loan, we would think, unless United cover the wages or pay him off. You never know.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait and see on the right back situation. The striking situation, you're spot on. I put in the group chat the other day that it would be slightly typical United to end up with Memphis tomorrow, but we'll wait and see on that one. But the most important question is Ronaldo. Is he more likely to stay now than go?
No, I don't believe so. So I'd put a story up today, Ben. They're still pushing. George Mendes still wants him out. He still is. He wants Champions League football, Ben. And I did a story the other day. Sporting is still keen, but a lot of these clubs who want him, there seems to be clashes in the hierarchy as to who wants him, who can get it done. Chelsea is still not out of the equation yet, but they're still pushing Aubameyang, which we believe will be today. That's turned into a saga when it shouldn't have been, just between Chelsea and Barcelona. The talk's going on. Chelsea want to include Alonso. Suddenly Barcelona don't. But yeah, and Depay's an interesting one who, he wanted that free transfer to go to Juve. There was speculation in Spain that he might have used that free transfer to go to Real Madrid, which is why Barcelona weren't willing to hand him a free transfer. United do like Depay. He's in there. And I wouldn't rule it out. I really wouldn't. But yeah, Ronaldo wants out, and he's not playing under Ten Hag. A lot of it will depend on what he wants in terms of wages. What can he do? We've seen these loans with Napoli. I don't believe the player wants to go to Napoli. I'd be surprised. I think Sporting makes a lot of sense. They could offer him a percentage of the club in terms of wages, which would help do the deal, Ben. It depends what United want to do. The hierarchy, we really don't want to lose Ronaldo, but if he's not playing under Ten Hag, what's the point in him being there?
So it sounds like United really only want to do a deal here if they can get two replacements in for both players. So if Wan Bissaka and Ronaldo go, United will need a striker and a right back in, but they're so very deal dependent. And this late on, it's who can move quickest.
Because then Rashford, Martial, they can play centrally, but you do need another, and there isn't one there at the club, is there? So it does make sense if Ronaldo does go, you need to bring another one in.
Well, maybe we can catch up quickly tomorrow, Graeme, and have a further conversation about some of these if we're in any position to do so. For me,
it might be a bit busier than you thought, Ben. I think I don't think it's going to be as quiet as you thought, maybe.
Do you know what worries me about all this? And I don't want to go into too much detail now. It's just the whole visa process and the whole sort of getting deals done between here and there. Everything seems to take absolutely bloody ages for anything to go through now.
Yeah, visas different to work permits. Obviously, visas are just ones that you need to get into the country. But as long as that should be fine. But let's keep an eye on the obviously the Napoli thing. I don't think, but I still think one of these big teams will come back for Ronaldo. I think Atletico maybe. Bayern probably not, but let's keep an eye out. I don't think we're done with Ronaldo yet in terms of a big story.
Well, maybe we can jump on live tomorrow and have a further chat. But loads potentially going on. Loads has gone on. Graeme, hopefully we'll speak tomorrow. If we don't, thank you so much for your time this window. It's been massively appreciated. The only one that didn't come off that we thought would do was De Jong, but we can have a further chat about that.
Yeah, and he's still not done. If that were, obviously he doesn't want a wage drop. And if they pay him and get out, I said United have never ruled themselves out of this. They've never come out and said no. It looks unlikely, but if today or tomorrow he's available and can move, United are ready.
They'll pay the money.
They've done so much work on this deal, but and remember to get De Jong, it isn't a one-off payment as well. Remember, they're not playing his release clause, so they don't have to find 80 million in one go. Same with Anthony, they're not paying 100 million euros in one go. Everyone seems to create this where all these deals are, unless it is a release clause you're paying, they are in installments.
Well, let's have a chat tomorrow, Graeme, and see where we're at. We're either going to be sat here in the middle of loads going on, or we're going to be sat here wondering, what is going to go on. It's one or the other anyway. Enjoy the rest of your day today, Graeme. I know you're going to be snowed under, and enjoy most of tomorrow as well. And we'll catch up on deadline day. And as Graeme said here, things could happen. It's dependent on things happening, which is why everything's so much in the air. But Casemiro, good signing. Anthony, phenomenal. So I'm gonna put words in your mouth, Graeme. Phenomenal.
No, he is. I think Anthony. You can say I'd be him. I love him as a signing. I think it's one of the signings of the summer. It's one of the best signings Manchester United have made, probably since Ronaldo originally. And
also, I'm going to put words in your mouth. Lisandro Martinez, the best 24-year-old Argentine centre-back in the Premier League, which is superb. I think he might be the only one, which means we're all right with that comment.
Yeah, I still probably put actually, your forwards is a better defender than him. No, but yeah, as good as Anthony's signing is, Martinez is the exact opposite.
Stop it, Graeme. I hope he proves you wrong. We'll catch up with Graeme tomorrow. Guys, hit like, subscribe, share the video. Deadline day is approaching, and this is your Manchester United transfer update. Go follow Graeme Bailey for the latest, and I'll speak to you guys in a bit. Bye, mate.
Cheers, guys.